Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see some of the names from the submissions.
Hello,
Glad to see you all
hello,
made it.
everyone.
Awesome. Cool.
Hi.
I'm not going to wait too long because we have a pretty
Welcome.
filled hour. I said I would just give it 1 minute and the early bird will get the worm. Okay. Hello, hello. Welcome back. Great. Hi, Maria. Welcome. Cool. Okay, let's get this party started. No, this is the grand finale of CodeOp's 3-day coding challenge. I'm really happy to see you've all made it to this point. It's not nothing to spend an hour, presumably after work, to nerd out in front of your computer, more screen time. But I hope you all enjoyed it. Certainly, it's been a pleasure seeing the community grow in our Slack, and obviously seeing the final projects. What's in store for today? Like I said, it's a sweet 1 hour. So first, we're going to get a tutorial from CodeOp's lead full stack engineer, Germinal, who's with us today. Hello, Germinal. Who is Germinal? Aside from being our lead full stack instructor, he's also been coding. We just talked about it for over 20 years. His first paid gig was when he was 18 years old. He's now, 38. And so he's been coding for a really long time. And he also, in addition to teaching, has a side job because he loves his craft. He teaches, but then he also wants to stay close to technology. So he has another job in which he focuses his expertise is on data visualization. So he's built really cool dashboards for clients like the UN, Commonwealth, the Spanish and Catalan government, as well as the municipality of Barcelona. And really the idea in this masterclass is for you to just see how something is built from complete scratch. So today he's going to build a very simple memory game using some of the tools you all learned earlier today, earlier this week. Java, you're gonna see HTML and you're gonna see CSS. He's gonna incorporate some JavaScript, which you didn't learn, but you'll see how that functions. Additionally, he'll use some Vue, which you didn't learn, but it's another front-end framework, and Tailwind CSS. So that's the beauty of learning technology, is it's a cumulative knowledge and it builds on top of itself. So don't be worried if you don't understand everything completely, or if there's words you've never heard of. That is the invitation to learn more. And there's different ways to do that. But the idea is he's going to spend 20 minutes showing you how to build something from scratch. This is recorded, so you're encouraged to follow his steps on your own time at home. And that's really it for the masterclass. After that, we'll have a fireside chat with this lovely person also here, Amelia. Hello, Amelia.
Hi.
Amelia is awesome. Not only does she come from a finance economics background, not from a STEM background, but she did our boot camp. Previous to our boot camp, you were working as a business analyst. You did the boot camp. We want to know why. What was the trigger there? We want to know what the boot camp experience was like. And also now you're working almost immediately after the boot camp, potentially during the boot camp. Around that time, you started working as a data engineer consultant for a company in Stockholm. How did you do that? What's it like? So we want to hear straight from your mouth how that happened. And then we have questions from the audience for any of us really about transitioning into tech. I told you on the first day last week that I also transitioned into tech. I didn't go the bootcamp route. In fact, I did a master's in data science, but it's been quite a journey for me. So we want to have a discussion, ask any questions you want. And then finally, we've selected the winners of the 3-day coding challenge. So we're going to share who the winners are. And Ruth then will liaise with you tomorrow to share with you the prizes. which again is an hour's time with one of our instructors to get live feedback on your coding. So consider it like a mentoring session, something more technical. Or you can schedule an hour with me to talk about transitioning into tech, any doubts you have. If you want to start a company, anything like that, I'm here to speak with you. And then finally, or you can meet with Anne-Marie, our career coach. Anne-Marie was a software engineer. She actually comes from a computer science background. She worked as a consultant for a long time, and now she advises many people on their technical careers. And then finally, if you're interested in, moving your journey along, I can talk about how you can do that at CodeOp. Often it's the case, people learn, they're doing exactly this. I did this, where you're trying to learn how to code on your own. There's so many great resources out there that don't cost any money. If you're at a point where you want more, or you've plateaued and you want to learn from someone like Germinal to get that structure, then we can spend the last few minutes talking about how to do that. That's it. I think, 5 minutes. Perfect. Okay. So now I'm going to pass the mic on to Germinal. A big pleasure. I hope you enjoy it. And that's it.
All right. Thanks, Katrina. I'm going to start sharing my screen just right now. So I'm just going to try to cut to the chase. Okay. I'm going to build a memory game. So for everybody to know, probably everybody knows what this is, but the memory game, something like this. There's a few cards that are like flipped over, and then you can flip them and see the photo or the design in it. And then when you get a pair, you grab it and you have one more point, something like this. So I'm going to try to build something like that in like 15 to 20 minutes. This is a live coding session, which means everything can go wrong. If it does, just go with the flow. I'm going to use HTML to structure the things that you see on the page. I think that you know a bit of HTML at this point. I'm going to use CSS to style things, meaning give every element its shape, its position, its color, its rounded corners, all of this. And I'm going to use JavaScript, which I don't know if you know, but that's the programming language that's going to handle the logic of the game. I want to have a few cards, I want to click on them, and then that should flip them over, etc. All of this logic of the game is handled by JavaScript. So I'm gonna basically write JavaScript. I'm gonna do this in this environment called Vue, which is that's a framework. It's a progressive framework for building front-end user applications. It's a super cool tool that allows us to build things in JavaScript, but like 10 times, 100 times faster. Okay. It's not the only framework out there. There's React, there's many more. All of them are actually fantastic. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use Tailwind CSS, which is this, for styling. It's not like styling is CSS, and that is just pre-built classes for CSS that I can use. But it's very, very handy. It's very fast to use, etc. And then all of this, just so you know, I'm packing off all of this with this tool called Byte, next generation front-end tooling, which basically installs Vue for me. It installs Tailwind, it connects everything, and it builds up the project super fast. Great, developer experience, all of this. That's just so you know what I'm using. All the instructions for installing those things are in this getting started sections. I did all of this already, so I can actually just get started. I have this empty, blank page on my left. Everybody can see my screen. Katrina, is the screen okay? Yes. So there's nothing in it, and I'm going to build something in it. And then to my right, I have VS Code, which is a code editor. You could use anything really. There's a lot of files that have been automatically built for me using this tool Byte. I'm not going to go over them because all my code is going to go into just one file. And there's this app component that we see in here that's divided in 3 sections: template, script, and style. In template, I'm going to actually put the HTML, okay, the divs, the buttons, the titles, the text, all of this. In the script section, I'm gonna build all the JavaScript logic of the application, and then I'm gonna write maybe some extra CSS styles in the style section. Okay.
That's Germinal.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Any way to zoom in to make it a
Yeah,
little larger?
I was going to ask you this. Just let me know
Cool.
when this is big enough, like this.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to get started. I'm going to try to break down my thought process into how I would do this. I would do this rather quick, but I try to talk over the things that I'm doing so they make just a little bit of sense, okay? Just so you can see, if I write something here, memory gain, and I just save my file, this page gets automatically updated, okay? And you can see a little title in here, okay? So anything that I do in my code, it gets automatically reflected on the browser. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is, I want to build basically a deck of cards, okay? And for this example, I'm going to use 16 cards, like a grid of 4 by 4 cards, which means I need 8 pairs of cards, okay? So the first thing I need to do when I boot up the application is to create the deck. So for this, I'm going to create a function called create deck, something like this. And even though I'm not going to customize this now, I'm going to give it a default number of pairs for this. I'm going to use 8. So I'm going to put this param in here. And then my job in here is to basically generate 16 card objects, and they are paired. So there's 2 of each one of them. Okay. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to create a little variable deck. It's going to hold an array. That's a list of things. And then I want to loop 8 times, 1 per pair, and create the 16 cards, if that makes sense. So a loop is a repetition in JavaScript, and I can do this with a for loop like this. And I want to repeat this basically 8 times. So I'm going to do it like this. You don't need to know what all of this means, but I'm going to start at counting at 0, and I'm going to end at 8. So that's going to run, sorry, I'm going to end at 7. So it's going to run 8 times. And for each one of them, I'm going to construct this card object. An object is something holding many pieces of information. For now, I just want the value of the card, which is going to be basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 8. So the value will be something like I plus 1, something like this. And now that I'm constructing this card object, I need to actually push it, add it to the deck. So I'm going to use this method deck.push the card. The point is, I don't want to push just 1 card. I want to push 2 of them, like 2 instances of the card. So I could do it like this. For technical reasons, that would not work. It would be actually the same card twice. And I want actually 2 different instances of the same class, which is not the same. So I'm going to have to use this special syntax for this. So for every card, I'm pushing actually 2 instances into my deck. I think that makes sense. And what I'm going to do before I finish this is that this deck is actually not visible in my template. I want to see it on the screen. So I'm actually going to import something from Vue, which is the framework that I'm using for this, which is something called a reference. I'm going to import a reference from Vue. The reference is a variable that can be automatically synchronized with what you see on the screen. So for this, I'm going to actually create one reference called deck or cards, maybe cards. And that's going to be a reference starting at an empty array, something like this. And then that deck that I just created inside of this create deck function, I'm going to assign it in here. If you see my kids screaming on the background, it's just normal. It's after class today, okay? So cards at value equals deck. All of this, I think it works, but I don't see anything on the screen, which is frustrating. For this, I need to make 2 things. First, I want to initialize this new deck when the application is mounted on the screen. So I'm going to import this second thing called onMounted. And I'm going to make sure that onMounted, when the application is mounted, like this, I actually call this create deck function. I think that's going to be it. So nothing is showing on the screen because I do have my cards, but I cannot see them. There's a very quick way of seeing the cards, which is like this. And all of those things that you can see in here are my 16 cards, okay? It's actually an array. That's a card with a value of 1. That's another card of a value of 1. There's 2 of each one of them. And then there's 2 cards with a 2, etc., up until the 8. So that's called the model. The data is there. I just need to represent the model in the screen. So I'm gonna show this in a nicer way, okay? Not just like code. I want to actually see cards like rectangles or squares, okay? So for this, I'm going to start using a few classes, a few divs in the HTML section. I'm going to use this class called hScreen, which means it takes the full height of the screen. And then I think basically I want to create a grid of cards. So I'm going to have a div with this grid class. And then inside of the grid, for each one of my cards in the deck, I have to use this special syntax from Vue, which is v4, which means for every card. Let's write it the correct way. For every card in cards. You know what? For now, I'm just gonna show the card's value, okay, the number. So I can actually do this card.value. So I think that should work. And I see my 8 cards, although they look horrible, they're there, okay? So I'm gonna distribute them so we can see them in a nicer way. So for this grid, I need to set some columns and some rows. It's gonna be 4 by 4. So I'm gonna add this class grid, rows 4. These classes that I'm using are pre-built classes from Tailwind CSS, and they're using CSS grid behind the scenes and all of that, okay? And grid columns 4, and then I'm gonna give, a gap of 4 in each one of them. And now it looks horrible, but it starts to resemble like a grid, a deck of cards, okay? Something like this. Then I think every card that I have, I want to have like a size, predefined size. So I'm going to give every card a size of width 36, whatever this means, and height 36, something like that. Now the distribution is just a bit better. Just for now, I'm going to give this a background color of gray 200, which is this light shade of gray. Let me just give it more space, okay? Something like this. Also, I'm thinking I'm going to just put the number in the middle so it looks nicer. So I'm going to do, that's going to be a flex container. I'm going to do item center and justify center. I should put the number in the middle. Yes. And I'm going to make it bigger. So text like 3XL. Now it's bigger. You can see it better, hopefully. And then, well, this is not perfect, but at least I have a grid of cards. Okay. So now the first part was to create the deck. The second part was to show the deck on the screen. Okay. The next bit would be, I'm just using numbers for now for every card. They are obviously all of them ordered, which is not what the game is about. Everything should be shuffled, and then I can see everything in a different position. So when I create my deck, I need to shuffle the cards, I think. So for this, I'm gonna call this shuffle method. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, I'm just gonna shuffle my deck, something like this. I don't have a shuffle method, so I need to write this. It's gonna be a function called shuffle that takes a deck, and its job is to just randomize the order of the cards, okay? A classic way of doing this is to loop. If I have 16 cards, I'm going to loop 16 times from the end of the array to the beginning, and for each one of them, I'm going to swap every card with a random position in the rest of the array, and I think something like that's going to work. So I'm just going to try to do it. I need another loop, okay? Loops are one of the 4 basic foundations of programming. So I'm going to start this time at the end of the deck. So for, let's see, for I equals deck.length -1, that's the end of the deck. And then as long as the I is more or equal than 0, and I'm going to be decreasing my counter. So I'm going to start at the 16th card and then 15th, 14th, 13th, etc. For each one of them, I want to grab a random index. I'm going to give it a name J, which is going to be basically a random. I have this function math.random. This gives me a random number from 0 to 1. So I don't want from 0 to 1. I want from 0 to this last card that I'm counting. So that number, I'm going to multiply it by I plus 1. So this 0 to 1 range is going to be stretched to something like 0 to 15 range. And that's going to be a completely random number. So it could be something like 2.6, and I don't want that. So I'm going to make sure that I just grab the integer part of this with a math.floor like that. So hopefully that's going to work. That's going to give me every time a random number, and I want to swap the cards. So for swapping something, I need to put something in a temporary variable. I'm going to grab the deck at the I position. And now that I've stored it, I'm going to actually swap this with the deck at the J position. Is that going to work? Hopefully, yes. And then the deck at the J position, I'm just going to make it the temporary one. And I think that's all that I need to do because the deck is an object. So if I just save this, there you go. These numbers are shuffled. You can see that on the screen. I'm going to make the numbers actually a bit bigger. I don't know how big your screens are. There you go. So the numbers are shuffled, and then hopefully every time that I just refresh the page, everything should be in a completely different position. And it actually works. So I'm going to assume that I just wrote it right. Okay, so that's my shuffled deck of cards. So I have a deck of cards, I'm showing that on the screen, and then it's shuffled. What's the next thing that I want to do? Well, the function, the job is that when I click on a card, every card should be like with its front side downwards, right? So when I click on it, I should flip it. In a way, I need a way to know if a card is flipped or not flipped, basically, which I don't at the moment. So whenever I was creating my cards, which was in here, I'm going to add another property, which is flipped. And by default, they're not going to be flipped. None of the cards are flipped. So that value is false, like this. And then what I want to do next is I want to know when every card is clicked. So for this, I have this method called click add click. I want to handle the click on the card, something like this. And I'm going to pass in the card. And that's a function that I don't have yet. So I'm going to write this next. I'm just collapse this and then function like this.
Germinal, I think we have a question.
Oh, we have a question. Okay. Wait.
Alexandra has raised her hand.
So, okay, I don't have to answer anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Alexander, you've got your hand raised. I can unmute you to ask the question, or if you prefer to write it in the chat. Oh, I see you've just taken it down.
Okay, I'm just going to continue, okay? So that method handle click card should do something. Well, it should flip the card for starters. So when I receive a card, I'm just going to do card.flip, because that's an object, and I'm going to make it true. It was false, I'm going to make it true. That's actually working, but you can't see it. I'm just clicking on everything, and you cannot see if this is flip or not flip. For this, I'm going to actually build two sides of the card, okay, the front and the back. For this, I'm going to go back to my card object, which is this. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. I'm going to give this a class of card, and then inside of the card, instead of just writing the value, I'm going to have one div that's going to represent the front, I think. I'm going to give it a class of front, and that's where the value is going to go. And then I'm going to have another div inside of that. That's going to represent the back of the card, and I'm just going to put something like back, for example. Or, make it branded CodeOp in the back of the cards, okay? So I have these all CodeOp, and then I have also the numbers in here. So I don't want to see the numbers, I just want to see the back of the card every time, okay? Let me make this a bit smaller, something like this. I can still see the number, I want to hide this. So for this, I'm going to make every card the relative element, that's CSS, and then each one of these, the front and the back of the cards, let me just go back to my styling section. Both the front, comma, and the back are going to be, I'm going to apply, that's table in CSS syntax, an absolute position to them. Let me see if that's going to work. Yes, I want this to have an absolute position. They should occupy the full width and the full length of their container. And actually, I'm going to add something cool, like a transition or something. So I want to make sure that my transform that transition and the duration for that's going to be half a second. You can see why I'm doing this later. Also, both the front and the back, if they're reversed, I shouldn't see the other side. So there's actually a property for this called back face. Back face visibility, I think visibility should be hidden. Something like this. We can still see nothing. I know it's going to take 2 more minutes. Okay, I have my front and my back sort of styled. They are absolute, they're taking the full space. Okay, I want to make sure that by default the front is actually rotated, so I don't see it, it's facing down. So I'm going to add a transform of rotate in the Y angle, which is this one on the screen. I'm going to give it 180 degrees, something like this. Make sure that all of this is working. And then I think I'm missing something. I'm gonna let me add some styling for the back. I think I'm gonna apply a little background in here. Background gray, let's say 600. Okay, that's front, that's the back. Front and back. This is relative. Let me see if I have. Seems to be like an error. It says black visibility class does not exist. Okay, there's something wrong here. I think I'm missing just a semicolon. Hopefully, yes. Save that. Refresh the page. Yes, that's better. So I only see the back of the card right now. Okay. So I have to do a couple more things. I want to make sure that if a card is flipped, what I'm going to do is this. If a card is actually flipped, I'm going to add an extra class to the card called flip. There's a syntax for this in view, which is like that. I'm going to do flipped. And then if the card is flipped, I'm going to add that one. Flip. And I'm doing this because, going back to my styling, if I have a flipped card, I want actually to show the front of the card. So I'm going to get my transform to use a rotate Y of 0 this time. It's 180 or 0 transform. And actually, I'm going to do the opposite for the back. So for the back of the card like this, I'm going to give it a rotation of 180 like this. If they're flipped, I'm going to save this. If this works, when I click on something, yay, it works. I don't know if you could see the cool animation, but it kind of works. Okay, I can flip the cards and you can see the other side. I can actually make this way cooler. I'm going to add a rotate Z, maybe a 50 decrease, which is only going to be noticed when the actual rotation happens. And yeah, something like that. Rotate Z. Okay, but not in here. Instead, in here. It's not flipped. Okay, save again. All right. Yeah, actually, the effect is way cooler. I don't know if you can see this, but maybe on the video it's going to be captured. Okay, I'm going to remove this background in here, and I'm going to make sure that the actual front has a different color, maybe. So the front of the card is going to have apply, I don't know, a background gray 300, something like that. Is that going to work? Apply without the colon. Yes. Okay. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Oh, Katrina, is this too slow? I'm actually quite close to the end. No?
Couple more minutes.
Okay, give me 7 minutes. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make it quick. Okay, so I can flip the cards. I have to do a few more things. Okay, let me just see my notes. When I flip, I don't want to flip all the cards at once. I only want to flip the cards if there's less than 2 cards flipped at the moment. That's what I want to do. So when I actually flip this, I'm going to put in a different method called flip. Then it's going to accept the card, something like this. I'm going to flip my card like this, but I only want to do this if the total amount of cards is less, that are flipped is less than 2. That's how the game works. So I'm going to find them in my cards, dot value. I have to filter them for every card. I just want those that are actually flipped, like this. And only if the amount of cards that are flipped, or the length of the array is less than 2, then I want to flip the card. So if that worked, basically, I click on one, it flips. I click on another one, it flips. But I click on a third one, and it doesn't work. That's exactly what I want. The next thing that I want is, if I flip 2 cards and they match, I want to mark them as matched. So there's another property for this, which is the card matched yet? So it falls at the beginning. And then after I flip a card, I want to check which cards are matched, like this. For this, function matched or check matched. I need to, again, count all the cards that are flipped, I think. Let me check my notes. I want to count all the Yeah, all the cards that are flipped, but they're not matched yet. And if there's exactly 2 of them and their values match, then those cards should be matched. Okay, sounds complicated, it's not that complicated. The first part of the logic is pretty much this one. I'm going to copy paste. And then I want every card that is flipped and that it's not matched. And actually this condition I need for the first one as well, like this. And then only if I have exactly 2 cards that are flipped and not matched. So if the amount of flipped cards is exactly 2, only then I want to check their values. If the first card, the flipped card 0, the first one, dot value exactly matches flipped at 1 dot value, only if that's true, they both match, then for each one of the cards that I just flipped, for each one of them, I want to set their matched state the true. They're matched. Okay, hopefully that's going to work. And then there's one more thing. If I flip something and it's not a match, I should flip them back. So it's going to be, and I actually should do this after a few seconds. So I'm going to add something called a timeout, set timeout. And then I want to flip back the cards, something like this. Let's say after 2 seconds, something like this. So what does it mean to flip back? I don't have this function. I'm going to write this function in here. It means get me all the cards that are flipped but not matched and just flip them back. So I need exactly the same thing. It's going to be pretty much the same logic as this guy. So I'm going to copy paste this, grab every card, and then if I have exactly 2 cards that are flipped but not matched, I need to flip them back. Is that going to work? False.
It's better because you have 1 minute.
Right, almost done. That's going to be something like this. If I have this, then the flip card is going to be like that. And then that was the flip card. I think this kind of makes sense. I'm just going to try it one time. Okay, let's see if the game works. I'm going to flip something. It's a 5, something else, it's an 8, and they go back. You see that? So flip something else, it's a 2. Wait a second, flip another one, it's an 8, and they should go back. Yes, but now I know that this one and this one, they're an 8. And they don't flip back. So that's your game right there. Okay, I can flip something else. It's a 1. That one is a 4, and they go.
Done.
So I'm gonna spend 1. That's basically the logic of it. It doesn't work. Let me just. Okay, so that works. I'm gonna add images maybe instead of just
No.
1 minute, Katrina. It's gonna be so much nicer. 1 minute.
We have this problem also in the boot camp.
Okay.
Getting Jeremy now to shut up is impossible. Okay.
1 more minute. Actually, you know what? Because I have the code, I did the code before. I can sort of copy paste it if you want. It's going to be super fast.
Jeremy, we got one question as well. It was more to do with the 3 equals together.
Yeah.
Does that mean equal? Because I didn't know what
that means that's an equality check. Is this exactly equal as this? Is a question. The triple equal means it needs to check both the value, so the number, and the type are both things in number. It's the one that we use usually in JavaScript. Anyway, so to make this nicer, all that I have to do really is this. Instead of just showing the card's value, I'm gonna use an image. That's all. Something like this. I'm gonna use an image in here, just a random image from this service called Pixum Photos. You can use it. And then just for going quicker, what else do I need to do? I can feel your pressure, Katrina. I'm going to use this. Okay, I know what I have to do. I'm going to wrap all of this in just one flex container so everything looks nice and centered in the screen. That's what I want. Like this. There you go. Just a little background color. And then I'm just going to leave it here. Maybe I can click on things. I can see things. Let's just play the game one time, okay? This one was this one. Yes. This one is this guy. No. This one, I don't know. I'm just going to click.
I really suck at this game. Huh?
I'm actually pretty good, but now I'm nervous on the screen, so it's not going to work. This one was this. This was this. I'm getting closer. This was, it hasn't appeared yet. Maybe it's this one. Yes. And then this one, maybe it was that one. And then there's this one, which is this one. And at this point, another function that it would say, okay, you won. I need to check my match cards are actually flipped over. That's it. Sorry.
Okay. There's one question from Laura. Where do the methods come from that you didn't define? Are they built into Vue?
So which methods did not define? Actually, there's not that many methods that I didn't define. The only method that I defined were those. I'm using something like the push method, which is built into the array prototype. But the shuffle, I did create it myself. The math thrower and math random, they are built into JavaScript. The set timeout is built into JavaScript. The flip, check match, and flip back, I wrote those. They are in here. And then the filter method is built in JavaScript. And the for each method is built in JavaScript. And those are all the methods that I use.
Nice. I have a question. So Amelia, I'm curious. What Germinal just did, what percent did you follow completely? 100%, 90%?
I mean, I do like follow all the logic of it, but I haven't been writing any JavaScript since the bootcamp, so for like 4 months. So the syntax, I have a little hard time following. Like I was also like confused about the 3 equals and the 2 equals at first. I was
okay. But you followed the logic. Now, had you not spent 11 weeks learning JavaScript, what percent do you think you would have understood in terms of logic?
Oh wow, I think like maybe 5 at the most.
Okay.
Like, because I remember doing all of these like before I went to the boot camp, but everything just goes like so fast. So it's a hard time to keep track of things.
Okay. So I just wanted to say, folks, if there are things that you didn't understand, you shouldn't understand it because you've never learned it. But I do think that it's insightful to see how something is completely built from scratch and how the knowledge layers itself. I'm curious, Germinal, now you've been nerding for a long time.
Yeah.
If you were just doing this and you hadn't done it before, or you were a bit more, it was 18 years ago. If you want to put something like this together, how do you start? You don't just start coding, no? Are you with a paper and pen, building it out? Like what are the pre-steps to doing something like this?
The step number 1 is that maybe what we call the wireframe. I know what I want to see the visuals of what I want to build. So, well, no, step number 0 is what do I want to build? A memory game card. Okay, do I know how it works? Yes. It's, a deck of cards in a grid pattern. So once I know this, I'm going to write, a wireframe of what I want, just like black and white. I want 16 cards like this. That's the first thing but I don't actually build this. That's just like the idea of what I want to build. I don't start with actually showing, I did this. I didn't start building the user interface. I started with this create deck function. It's what we call the model. Anything that I see on the screen is just a visual representation of something else, some data that I have on the background. And that's where things are. So that's what I shaped first. How does my data look like? In this case, it's just a collection of 16 cards. And what is every card? Well, every card is a little collection of information which contains value, flip, and match properties. That's one card for me. That thing, one deck of, that's called an array with objects. Okay, that array of objects is my model. Once my model is clear, I can start representing the model. That's the second thing that I did. So I had my deck, and then I showed it on the screen. I can talk about this.
Perfect. Thanks. Another question someone had: are there any naming conventions that you use for variable, object, or function names?
I use the classic JavaScript convention, which is called something. I never remember if this is camel case or something case, but every function name has ideally at least 2 words. The first one is lowercase, but then every other word that you have is capitalized, the first letter. So create deck, the D is uppercase. And then my variables are all lowercase, ideally something that defines what the variable holds. So if it's an array of things, which is a collection, it should be a plural name, cards, something like that.
Okay. Could you do this in Python? Not you personally, but with the programming language.
Yeah.
How is it similar or different to JavaScript, and could you make this app?
Well, basically it's different from JavaScript. That in JavaScript I can run it in the browser, which means I can write all the logic of the game, which is all of this that you saw, but at the same time, I can draw it directly on the screen, and I can have all this logic running on the front end. If I have to build this in Python, Python only runs in the backend, which means the logic is going to be pretty much the same. It's just those functions with the Python syntax. But then to actually generate, I need to generate HTML code that I can send to the browser and the browser can open. And to generate that code, I actually need to generate it like statically on the backend, which means I cannot use the niceties of Vue. The nice thing about Vue is I can just change the model, change the flip state. And as long as I define what does it mean to be flipped in my HTML, Vue synchronizes everything, and you can see the animations on the screen. That's what I would do with Python.
Thanks.
The point is that in Python, you would still need the front-end logic, which you don't get with Python.
Okay. There are more questions,
Okay.
but I'm sorry, we have to change gears. Jeffrey, now, thanks so much for your masterclass.
Okay.
Very insightful, as usual. Thanks.
All
You're
right.
dismissed. Ciao. Bye. Cool. Thanks, everyone. So now we have Amelia. I gave a little background to your past, but here, so you, before the bootcamp, how much JavaScript did you know?
I didn't know any JavaScript at all, actually. Never.
Okay. And so then why did you want to do a full stack development bootcamp?
Yeah, so I like to give a even bit of a more background. I started like as far from tech as you can. I started out with horses at first, and that was like my whole life. I was just riding, and that's why I moved to Sweden to become a professional equestrian, I guess.
Wow.
But I soon figured that no, it's much nicer to just have it as a hobby and not be unstable like every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Wow.
So I went into economics, and when I was a part of the student organization, that's when I got an introduction to Python, and it was so much fun. I thought it was very kind of like interactive way to work and build things, and yeah, I guess that's kind of where it started. And then I started working as a business analyst, hoping that I would get to code a lot and learn a lot. But in the end, I did learn this programming language called SQL, which is used a lot in all kinds of data analysis, but nothing more. So that's why I came into CodeOp, because I just felt like I know that this is what I want to do and develop in, and I kind of need to take it into my own hands, because otherwise I'm just never gonna do it. Like, it's another thing, because like you said before, like there are so many different resources that you can do online for free, but I'm not one of those that has like the self-discipline to like come home after a work day and just like sit in front of my computer for 3 or more hours and do those kinds of things. So I knew I needed like more structure and somebody that was really good at it to help me learn and develop.
So your gateway to the world of coding was SQL, or also SQL, known as SQL.
Yeah.
My gateway was HTML, CSS. A friend showed me how to do something very similar to what you all just did in the 3-day coding challenge, where I put in the HTML, CSS and rendered something in my browser. I took a screenshot of it. I should have shared it now. But then you want more. And it's true that there's a lot of great resources out there. My partner at the time also is an engineer, and he certainly was showing me some ins and outs, but I knew I liked it, and I was doing web development, and I got some paid gigs working on websites. But then you want more, and it's a daunting field to permeate. And so you decided to do the boot camp, to buckle down and just spend 11 weeks because it's an efficient way. Did you know that you wanted to be a data engineer?
I didn't. I was actually like, so I took like a leave of absence from my current job as a business analyst, and I guess like I didn't really know what I wanted to do afterwards. I just knew I wanted to learn coding, and I wanted to become better at it and do more of it in my job. But then during the boot camp, and this company where I work at now, they reached out and they kind of explained what a data engineer is, because I mean, I had no idea. And
So what is a data engineer? Sorry, just to interrupt you
yes.
quickly.
So I like to explain it like if a data scientist is the cook that works with all the data and does all this like fancy food, I'm the one that gets them their ingredients. Like I provide all the data to the ones that want to use it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I interrupted you. So they reached out to you. You didn't even know what a data engineer is. They told you what they needed.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that was kind of just a good mix of my previous experience as a data analyst, and also I get to use my experience from the boot camp and learning to code. So I think it's a good mix of both.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so here you are now. You applied to this job, or they just reached out to you?
They reached out to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Data is hot in Stockholm.
Okay.
Especially females. So
Okay. So that's another thing. You know, companies are looking for folks like you. There's a big gender disparity in tech. It's why I launched CodeOp. And so certainly now is a time if you're looking to get into tech, because in the end, there's just not a lot of diversity in tech. That's the reality, and that's what we're trying to work on. So they reached out to you, perfect. And so you decided to jump on this. So you graduated the bootcamp in March. That's more or less when you got the job. You've been doing it now for a few months. What's it like?
It has been so great. I mean, a lot of it is just because I really appreciate like the company and everybody is super nice, and I have great bosses, which is like one of the most important things, to have people lead you that also support you and encourage you and let you kind of decide where it is you want to develop. But it has like definitely also been challenging. Like there was some imposter syndrome days where I came into work and I was like, I have no idea what it is doing, but luckily I'm like in this era of time where we have ChatGPT, so that has been a huge
okay, very good. So this hasn't replaced you. It's actually a tool that you use now, which is what I hear from most people in tech.
Yeah, it's very useful.
Okay, cool. So we have one question. So folks, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. We have one question here. Any suggestions for someone who wants to make this change, but honestly doesn't have the time to commit to the bootcamp schedules and work? So I want your opinion, Amelia. I'll give mine. First of all, learning always takes time. I'm trying to learn Italian right now, 2 days a week, and it's very difficult with a 5-month-old and being the CEO of a company. But there's no other way to get the skills than to allocate a certain amount of time every day. Now, boot camps by definition are high intense experiences. Typically they're full-time 11 weeks or 12 weeks. There's also part-time courses out there that are meant to support working people. So for example, with CodeOp, we're not the only ones. There are part-time courses that are 6 months and they're built for working people. We also have a part-time boot camp that's 6 months, and it also happens in the morning for folks who are parenting, because 6:30 is the worst time ever to start studying. Usually my baby, I know, is crying at this point. So that's one suggestion. Do you have any other suggestions, Amelia?
No, I think you put it well. I think it like the thing with coding is it's kind of like learning a new language. Like you definitely do need a lot of practice in it. So there is no real shortcut to kind of just watch a YouTube video and then you will learn it, because like even if you learn the techniques, you still have to practice them to actually be able to use them yourself. So it will take some time and effort, but it will definitely also be worth it, because once you get over that certain threshold where you start to like understand the logic and the language a little bit more, then you will get to a point where you're so much more self-efficient and you can kind of learn much easier and by yourself, and you won't need that kind of like guidance anymore. So
I think too, I mean, one another way to answer it is, if you don't have time, actually boot camp is the best for you, because you just spend 3 intense months focusing on it, and then you're done. You've learned what you need to learn, and then you can start working. But I get that people also have to work and have family obligations, etc. That's our advice. Next question. How do you keep from being overwhelmed with how fast the tech is moving and how much you have to learn? Great question.
I mean, I am so new to all of this, so I haven't maybe experienced like the kind of drastic changes that you have, Katrina, but for me, it's definitely, I just like kind of try to take it as it comes and become as good as I can, and just kind of embrace the change, like with AI and all of these things, just kind of not try to be against it, but try to instead like benefit from it in a way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, and so my whole life I've been around tech and all the hype and the latest trends, and everyone thinks it's going to save the world, and in the end, it has its big moment, and then it sort of sizzles down. I mean, at the same time, certainly I think there is an incorporation, but it's not as fast, and it tends to be hyperbole. Everyone thought, for example, virtual reality was going to change the world, or Google Glasses was going to change. Google Glasses haven't worked. The metaverse, what happened to the metaverse? People were talking about that. So I think as you learn technology, you also see through a lot of the bullshit and the hype that's so common. And that's one of the cool things about understanding technology. For example, Germinal, I have people saying, oh, ChatGPT, it's going to change, developers are going to be obsolete. And then I talked to Germinal, and he's like, okay, already we've been copying and pasting code for a really long time. So if anything, this just helps us do it faster. But I need to understand technology to know what to pull, if it's going to work or not, or what question to ask. And so I guess I think one of the ways to alleviate feeling overwhelmed is through knowledge, actually, and learning more to really understand it and assess what's helpful, what's not helpful, what's a fad, what's not. For both of you, how did you get your first job without an intern experience?
Well, for me, I mean, it like, I'm not gonna lie, it did help that I had some data analysis experience before I got into this data engineer position, but before I got the business analyst position, I think it was just a lot about like convincing them that I am willing to learn, because like in the end, like if you're looking for a junior position, they know that you're not gonna know everything. Like they know that you will need time, and it will take a lot of effort, and you will be slow, and you won't be that efficient. You will ask a lot of questions. Like that's just a part of it. So it's okay not to know everything, but they kind of just want to know that once you start there, that you're gonna make the effort to actually become better. So yeah, I think it was a lot about that, just trying to convince them that I am really eager to learn and that I want to learn.
Yeah, 100%. In my case, my master's program, I had to do a practicum, so close to an internship. And so I started from there. I was working at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. I did the practicum. So basically my master's thesis was a project done there. And then I was invited to stay longer, but I decided to go into the corporate space. And from there was basically a data scientist. So, I mean, what you should know, Laura, is it's totally possible, and many people are doing it. And certainly don't compare yourself to computers, recent grads who studied computer science, because bootcamp students are looked at totally differently. It's complementary. It takes a different profile. It's a completely different profile. Someone who does a bootcamp and someone who studies a traditional way. And so it happens, and people are looking for you, I promise. How important is having, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, I just want to add, like, doing the boot camp, you actually, like, you get to build things, so you can actually show what you have accomplished, and that is often like a very big deal for employers. You actually have like proof that I can do this, I have done this. Totally. So I would definitely say that the boot camp is a lot worth. So yeah.
Okay, and also, hey, I didn't do a boot camp. I did a master's program, which was like a 1-year boot camp. So if anyone wants to talk about going that route, it's also a possibility out there. One question: how important is having the right attitude when starting this journey? In my opinion, 100%. We've had people who have experience, maybe they studied Java back in college, but they haven't been using it for 10 years and they want to do a boot camp. If they have a bad attitude, the person that hasn't touched any coding whatsoever but has the right attitude will actually do better in the boot camp. And it's probably more likely to get hired. Having the right attitude is really, really, really important. And it's one of the main things we're assessing when we talk to people who apply to our program.
Definitely. And like you said, like when applying for jobs, I think it just will do so much if an employer sees that you're like engaged and eager, instead of maybe knowing everything but being like, yeah, I mean, this sounds good. Like, yeah, I think that will make a huge difference. I also saw there were a question in the chat about did it work out to build a learning community around you? Because I get you did the bootcamp remote. I actually didn't. So I was in Barcelona for 3 months, but half of our class was remote, and we were all a very tight-knit community, regardless of if we were remote or at the boot camp. Like because all the classes were online and we were talking, and we did the projects both with people in Barcelona but also online. So it was, yeah, I felt as close to the people online as to the ones that were there. So I definitely do not think that would be any like a worse option.
Super. So there's more questions, but we're nearing the end. What I want to say to you all is, again, thanks so much for being here. Really great questions. I see hunger and excitement out there to learn more, to ask more questions. That's exciting. Great. I hope we did our work in inspiring you all. If seriously you're ready to take the next step, we want to support you. You should never rush into anything like this. It's a big decision, mentally, emotionally, financially. But if you're serious and you're ready to take the next step, we want to give you a gift. And that is obviously a gift to help with the financial burden, because boot camps are expensive. Not everyone has 6,500 in their savings account. So our gift to you, if you want to apply in the next week, we can take off 1,500 euros. To support your technical journey. So, you know, what else? Now, I want to share with you, announce who won the 3-day coding challenge. So super, super exciting. Now, I'm going to share. Okay, Ruth, are you going to share it?
Oh no, I'm happy for you to share. I was going to say one caveat, because we'd said to everybody to vote for their favorite projects, and everyone was very nice to each other, and ended up we just had one vote on every project. So we actually, just to let you know, we took it into our hands. We opened it up to the CodeOp team, the CodeOp community, and they've been voting on your projects. And so from that, we've actually come up with the final top 3 that we'd like to.
So the first one, I will share my screen. So the first winner for 3-day coding challenge is Laura Castro. I'm bringing this up now because I saw you had more questions. Well, guess what? You now have an hour to ask all the questions you want to any of us. Really well done. Very clean first app. Congratulations, Laura. Okay, next one.
Very nice.
See, huh?
Cool.
Okay. So, give me 1 second. And the next one, Yvette Garcia, congratulations. Very clean site. Sorry. Really nice. It was one of the few that we saw with some stylistic changes to the images. You had some square images, nice layout. Okay. And the last one we have. Let me share. Just building the anticipation here. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but here we have Gian. Congratulations. Here's City Pool Encounters. I'm convinced. I want to check it out.
Hell yeah.
Very nice, very clean looking app. I mean, it's incredible. You built this in a really short amount of time. Imagine what you can do if you spend some more concentrated hours. So congratulations, everybody. What's next? Ruth, to you all who completed the 3-day coding challenge, you're going to have a certificate from CodeOp that shows that you completed this. I want you to share it with everybody. Really, congratulations. It's not nothing what you've done. It's a first great step to diving deeper into this world. And then, of course, for those that completed it and won the 3-day coding challenge, as mentioned, Ruth will be getting back to you. You're on our Slack community group. I hope to see you all there. We're not closing that channel. Feel free to ask us more questions, to talk. We're here for you. But anyways, it's been really lovely getting to know you. I hope that we do. I think we'll do this again. From our perspective, it's been a total success. So maybe also let us know how this could be better. For example, is 1 hour too long? 1.5 hours too long? Is 3 days and 1 week too much? Should we spread it out? Do you want to know JavaScript, SQL? Please let us know. So we'll obviously let you know. You're part of our mailing listserv. So we're in contact. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Amelia.
Well done.